Hi, I'm Ben. Welcome to my book corner. We have a tag video for you today. It's been a little while since we did one of these. It's also a glorious sunshine, a rare thing for Greater Manchester. So it's cooled down. We're going to do this outside. If you hear noise in the background, it's probably a train. So this is the 10 books I own that I want to read tag. I was tagged in this by the amazing Farrah over at Bookstalgic. If you haven't somehow checked her channel out already, please do so. It's absolutely amazing. The best reading vlogs for me personally. And this was originally created by Rain Books. I hope I pronounced that right. I will link both their channels down below for you to go and check them out. So first off, this is not going to be 10. This is going to be 12 because I've given myself a couple of madly specific restrictions for this. I've only picked physical books first off, and the 10 that I have picked are all books that I've had for over a year. But I do want to mention a couple of rereads that I really do want to do, and these have been rereads due for a longer time. So the first one, and we're going to start with the honourable mentions first. If you know me, I'm a fantasy nut, and somehow I never finished Mistborn. So the Final Empire is Mistborn Book 1. I'm not sure if it's still called the Final Empire, because I think the new versions are actually titled slightly differently, but I've had this for a long time. I read this over a decade ago, and I remember very, very little of it. I picked this up after reading the end of Wheel of Time. We'll get to that in a minute. Really, really enjoyed what Sanderson did with that, all things considered, being in a nearly impossible place, really in many ways, to follow on from the amazing Robert Jordan and finish the series. So I read this. I remember enjoying it quite a bit, but I wasn't reading as much back then as I do now. So it was a bit of a weird one. And I do have the original trilogy in totality now, but it's been so long since I've read it. I remember very little beyond little bits to do with the magic system, and even then it's quite vague. I do remember really liking the magic system though, so that really was a standout for me back when I read it. So that's the first one. And I mentioned Wheel of Time. Earlier this year, or back end of last year, we decided to start doing a read along for Wheel of Time. The intention was, where we now, we're in August, was to be at the end of book 6. I'll be reading book 6 about now. And none of us have managed it. So I know a few people have dropped out. Everybody has so much reading to do. Life is so busy. The world is on fire. Not that you can tell right now. So yeah, we've kind of fallen away from it a little bit as other things have taken precedence. But Elaine and I are still slowly but surely going through a reread of this when we get a chance. So I'm up to book 3, The Dragon Reborn. Don't remember much about it. It's been a long time since I've read this one as well. The land is one with the dragon is one with the land. The shadow lies across the pattern of the age, and the Dark One has turned all his power against the prison that binds him. But to wage his war, Rand must find Kalandor, ancient sword of the dragon, and the Forsaken will shatter the world to thwart him. So, I remember book 4 being the absolutely amazing one early on, but I've loved even the downtime books in Wheel of Time. I really enjoyed. So I really do need to get to that. Maybe a September reread, maybe. I have so much going on, it's just insane right now. But that's the plan for those. So they're the 2 rereads, they're the honourable mentions. But I do have a lot of books that I haven't read. So I've stuck to physical only, I've stuck to ones I've had on my shelf over a year. So we start with one that I've had 20 years-ish. We're going to start with the non-fiction books. And the first one is a history book. Now, I did history at college. I was meant to do history at uni. I dropped out, ended up in retail. That was a terrible decision. Who wants to serve customers all the time? It was a terrible choice. But, you know, we make our choices and we move on. So the last history book I read was a Folio Society book about the Babylonians by H.W.F. Saggs. And one of the other books that I bought at about the same time was Lost City of the Incas. So this is by Hiram Bingham. It's a Folio Society book. You've got the dust jacket, which I've just removed. It's amazingly in immaculate condition. This is from 2004, and has been with me for, well, that long. So there we go. And this is the story of Machu Picchu and its builders specifically. I did make a start on this. It covers the builders, so the Incas and their civilizations, introduction to the geography of the land, and then Machu Picchu, its discovery, and going through and the excavations and all that good stuff, with plenty of photographs in there as well. My knowledge of non-European history is spotty at best. I know bits and pieces, but not massive amounts. And Central American history in particular is really, really interesting to me. I was unlucky enough that when I was at school, they actually did do the Aztecs, and for whatever reason, they didn't do it in my year group. Because of course they didn't. They did the Black Death again for like the 47th time. So that was fun. But anyway, then the other non-fiction book that I have now, as I have spoken about on the channel many times, my favourite author of all time is Terry Pratchett. I finished the last Terry Pratchett, well, my last Terry Pratchett read last year, which was Raising Steam. I deliberately left it so long because I didn't want my Discworld journey to end, but I did pick up as well the official biography for Terry Pratchett written by Rob Wilkins, A Life in Footnotes. And I just haven't been in the mood to hit a biography for whatever reason. I don't really read biographies very often. But Pratchett is such a fascinating character just in general, as well as being an amazing writer, that this was a book I was never not going to pick up. I just haven't got to it yet. And I'm fascinated because there's so many interesting stories that I've heard. Again, as I already said, just such an interesting character as well, a journalist at heart in many regards as well. But also the fact that he'd skewer and satirize things in a way that wasn't mean-spirited, or never felt mean-spirited at any rate, was always really, really impressive to me. So, yeah, really interesting. Again, written by Rob Wilkins, who worked with Pratchett towards the end of his life and, was a close friend as well. So, fascinated to eventually get around to that one. And then, about a year ago, I was going to do a manga March thing where I was going to read a load of book one mangas and go from there. Never happened. Got distracted. Other things took precedence. I think I had a wobble. I don't know. But I bought a load of book ones, and the one that I was always kind of most interested in was Attack on Titan and Death Note. The premise of Death Note has always fascinated me. I love the anime. I like the couple of live actions that I've seen, even though I have a number of issues with the one that was set in the US instead of Japan. But this has always fascinated me as a premise. Now, this is the black edition, so it's white art on a black background, which, again, that inversion is something that I always quite enjoy. And this contains volumes 1 and 2. And just, I kind of wish it was all in colour because it's just beautiful. But, yeah, it's a bit of a chunky one. I think it's the chunkiest manga that I've got. It's not a small book by any stretch of the imagination. So hopefully we'll get to this by the end of the year. Hopefully. I keep saying this about books and then buying more, or get sent more and then don't read them. But potentially that's something that I could hit for Halloween, maybe. Maybe it has horror vibes, right? But, there's a whole host of manga that I need to get to. That's one of them. Finding Neverland. What else is there? There's just so many. Demon Slayer I've got. Just Assassination Classroom, Spy Family. So many. So at some point I am going to have to just sit down and just hit all of them just at once. But speaking of horror vibes, and also things that people get a bit surprised that I haven't read, especially seeing the amount of horror that I've read, is that I've not really read any Stephen King. I listened to an audiobook last year that was a couple of short stories. That's it. I was meant to read it. I didn't because I looked at the thing and thought, why is that bigger than my cat? And it just intimidated me. But I had it, and I also had Pet Cemetery. So this one feels like it's a lot more up my alley in many regards than it is. Just this little bit on the back. Behind the house, there's a carefully cleared path up into the woods to a place where generations of local children have walked in processions with the solemn innocence of the young, taking with them their dear departed pets for burial. A sad place, maybe, but safe. Surely a safe place, not a place to seep into your dreams, to wake you sweating with fear and foreboding. That sounds like my sort of horror. It sounds like it's a relatively slow pace. It sounds like it's got a good tense build up. From speaking to people, I've got the impression that I will really, really enjoy this one. So, yeah. So I will read that this year. I will read a Stephen King this year. This is my 3rd year on YouTube. I will read a Stephen King this year. And I suppose we might as well hit another book that is pretty well known. And in fact, this went absolutely mental when it came out. Babel by R.F. Kuang. So, hello, Kat. You're coming to visit again. So, this was absolutely everywhere a couple of years ago. I believe this is Dark Academia. I've only read Yellowface by Kuang so far, but I actually really, really enjoyed that. It's quite interesting to see an unlikable protagonist written in such a way. And again, speaking to a few people, this does sound a little bit left field by my standards, but still the sort of thing that I will enjoy. It's Oxford 1836, the city of dreaming spires. It is the centre of all knowledge and progress in the world, and at its heart is Babel, Oxford University's prestigious Royal Institute of Translation. The tower from which all the power of the empire flows. Orphaned in Canton and brought to England by a mysterious guardian, Robin Smith thought Babel a paradise until it became a prison. But can a student stand against an empire? Yeah, sounds really good. I always thought this was a bigger book than it was. I'm just wondering if the hardback was just bigger. It is quite small, I tried spacing it though. But it's still over 500 pages. So, Blackwell's book of the year a couple of years ago. So, yep, no idea when I'm going to hit it. But I know I've got Catabasis coming later this month. I think I've said that right, because that releases soon. So looking forward to that. And another book, however, that I haven't read, and people kind of give me a bit of stick for because I haven't read it. And again, this is the sort of thing that I would normally just snap down because it's a dystopian. I've not seen the film either. Hunger Games, Suzanne Collins. So there was a glut of books like this that came out. I also do have It Begins with D, and it's gone out of my head. I have another book by somebody else. My brain's gone numb. I can't remember what it's called. It's not called Diversity. I can't remember. Doesn't really matter. But that came out and then got turned into feature films. And Hunger Games is very much, or appears to be, from what I can tell, the standard bearer of a lot of those books and films as well. I've just never got around to reading them. And, as a franchise, this is still going with books coming out this year, which I believe are prequels. I've been told the films are amazing and the books are even better. So, yeah, winning will make you famous. Losing means certain death. Part of me would rather be dead than famous, but he says making videos on a social media platform. But yeah, part of the reason I've never really hit the Hunger Games is because it's another series, and I'm really bad at finishing series, which leads me on to my next one. One of my favourite reads of a couple of years ago was the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin. And last year I read book 2 of The Obelisk Gate. I've still not read The Stone Sky. Now, there was 2 books I was potentially putting in here for this one. There was this one and Queen of Nothing, which is the last of the Cruel Prince books, or the last of the initial Cruel Prince trilogy, I should say, because I know books that follow on from that, but they switch main characters. But this fascinates me because I don't really know exactly what's happening. There's clearly some form of ecological disaster that's happened. The moon is coming back. There's some sort of genetic magic or manipulation going on. It's very dark world. Again, it's a very dystopian world. This is a post-apocalypse in so many ways. The characters are fascinating, if not necessarily likable. And I really have no idea how this is going to finish, whether it's going to have a happy ending. I suspect it probably won't. But this is stunningly written. I also listened to a short story by Jemison as well, which was incredibly good. For whatever reason, I've just kept passing it over, and I don't know why. And it's one I definitely need to finish because books 1 and 2 were absolutely phenomenal. Now, speaking of books that I've heard are phenomenal, we're on to some indie books now because we like indie books on this channel. Adrian M. Gibson, Mushroom Blues. This has been all over my side of YouTube for about a year and a half. I've seen this described as fungal punk. Blade Runner, True Detective, and District 9 meld with a weird world of Jess Vandermeer, Philip K. Dick, and China Melville in Adrian M. Gibson's hallucinatory fungal punk noir debut. So, I don't really read noir novels, not my normal sort of thing, but I've heard such amazing things about this book and how this is a slump breaker as well, that I couldn't not pick it up. So I'm actually, for the indies, I'm actually going to read the full blurbs on them for you in case you haven't come across them. 2 years after a devastating defeat in the decade-long Spore War, the island nation of Hapon and its capital city of Neo-Kinoko are occupied by invading Coprinian forces. Its fungal citizens are in dire straits, racked by food shortages, poverty, and an influx of war refugees. Even worse, the corrupt occupiers exploit their power, pushing the narrative populace towards the brink of civil unrest. As a winter storm looms over the metropolis, NKPD detective Henrietta Hoffman begrudgingly partners up with mushroom-headed patrol officer Koji Nameko to investigate the mysterious murders and disappearances of fungal and half-breed children. Their investigation drags them deep into the seedy underbelly of a war-torn city once brimming with colonizers, criminal gangs, racial division, and moral decay. In order to solve the case and unravel the truth, Hoffman must challenge her past and embrace fungal ways. What she and Nameko uncover in the midst of this frigid wasteland will chill them to the core, but will they make it through the storm alive? Really interested to see how this plays out. I've just realised, and I hadn't clicked before, I presumed that I presumed that was hair or a hat, and it's not. It's actually a mushroom top, and I never realised that till I read the blurb. So that's interesting to me. I love cyberpunk aesthetic. I love the themes that are included in it. I'm quite hit and miss on execution for those, but I've heard that is amazing. So definitely hitting that. Might be one for December. Next up was a cover by. So this is by Raphael Nicholas, and it's Angels Before Man. So this is a queer retelling of the fall of Satan. In an eternal paradise, the most beautiful angel, Lucifer, struggles with shame, identity, and timidity, with little more than the desire to worship his creator. It isn't until the strongest angel, Michael, comes into his life that Lucifer learns to love himself along the way. Their friendship begins to bloom into something else, maybe the first romance in the history of everything. But this god is a jealous one, and maybe paradise is not paradise. I do like my mythological retellings, and just to put it out there, I do class Bible retellings as mythological retellings. So I have a suspicion that this is also a book one. I'm sure there's a follow-up to this. I'm sure there is. I'm also really happy that I got this cover because there was an alternative cover for this and it's not as good. But yeah, don't know. Again, it's another one that I keep just skimming over for whatever reason. Other things keep pushing ahead of it. It's very much one that I need to be in a direct mood to read that one. So, but again, a queer retelling of a traditional story. We're all here for that. And speaking of an interesting retelling, the final one is The Hades Calculus by Maria Ying. So I saw this all over X about a year ago. with a number of LGBTQ authors recommending this one. This is another cyberpunk, so already the aesthetic is perfect for what I like. Who was it that was recommending this one in particular? I think it was Danny Finn, the author Danny Finn. So this, I believe, is a Hades and Persephone retelling through a cyberpunk lens as well. So, decadent cyberpunk cities, Greek mythology, and giant mechs. Hades and Persephone as never seen before. For generations, Colossi have besieged the gates of Elysium. Each day, the city's fall looms closer. As one of Elysium's rulers, Hades has long sought to break the stalemate in Persephone. No, start again. To break this stalemate. In Persephone, a cyborg tailor-made to kill, she finds the key to victory and the perfect pilot for her war machine. She will acquire Persephone at any cost. Born to wield violence, and with the bloodthirst to match, Persephone chafes under her mother's control. At the first opportunity, she brutally breaks free and seeks sanctuary with the unlikeliest of patrons, the Lord of the Machine Dead, the Master of the Underworld. All Hades and Persephone have to do to realize their goal is to navigate the city's treacherous politics and survive the coming war. So, from what I understand, Hades is actually the giant mech in this, and Persephone is the mech pilot, for want of a better term. And again, this is a retelling, this is a romance. But this sounds amazing. I mean, again, this is another taking a very old, traditional, folkloric, religious-based story, mythological-based story, and putting it into a completely different context. And I love that. So that is The Hades Calculus by Maria Ying. Also, that is a massive book as well. I mean, look. But anyway, butterfly. Anyway, that is, I'm so easily distracted when I'm outside. That is the 10 books plus 2 that are on my shelves that I want to read. What I would like to know from you, amazing people, have you read any of these books? Or what books have you had sitting on your shelves for over a year that you're really excited to eventually get to? Let me know in the comments down below. If you've liked this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. It does help. It helps my self-esteem because I get imposter syndrome. Thank you so much for watching if you've got this far. Enjoy your reading, and I'll catch you all very, very soon.